Hey everybody, Life Lessons Podcast. This is Doug Spence. Today I want to talk about friends. Having friends, making friends, friendships. Just talk about friends. I've noticed there are a lot of videos on YouTube with people of all ages, some in their early 20s, late 20s, or early 40s, mid 40s, and they are talking about how they don't have any friends. So I thought I'd address this, and I remember this when I was in my 20s, having a lot of, I had quite a few friendships from high school, but most of those friendships were based on circumstance. We just went to the same high school. We all knew the same people. We were all in the same neighborhood. And we all basically partied and drank every weekend at the same house. So we weren't true friends. We didn't have a lot in common. It was just, we just had someone there, really. It was just having someone there. There wasn't a deep friendship. There wasn't a lot of trust. There wasn't a lot of openness and vulnerability or sharing, or it was just kind of very shallow, low level, pleasurable, fun. And a lot of those friendships fell away. And one of the main reasons they fell away was because I started to elevate my own code of conduct, which just means that I basically started to drink less. I started to, I went to college, and I started going to the bars less. So, there was less things in common to do with those people. But as I traveled around and moved to putting myself in different environments, like the school environment at college or whatever new environment I was in, I would meet new people. And none of this was forced. Again, it was just happened through circumstance. Being in the same classroom, day after day, you get to know a few people. And out of those few people, there was one or two where we kind of just clicked and we just kind of hung out. And that was an opportunity for a friendship that was starting to come to be. So before this, I remember when I was about 18, 19, 20, asking my stepfather, who was in his 40s at the time, I remember asking him if friends were important. And I kind of wanted to know, well, how much effort do I need to be putting into my friends? Am I going to get, almost like a return on investment? Like, I just wanted to know, are they important? And him at his age, he didn't really have a lot of friends. He had my mom and he had a few other sort of acquaintances, but he didn't have a best friend or a good buddy he could call and connect with and share his feelings with, or his thoughts, or talk about ideas with. He didn't have that. So when I asked him if our friendship's important, he gave me a pretty stern yes. And I trusted what he had to say, knowing, based on a lot of other things he's told me in the past, and he's a pretty wise person. So I took that to heart, and I realized, okay, well, friendships are important. So I'd better do my best to be a good friend. And another thing leading up to this question of asking, are friendships important, was it was around the time I let down one of my friends. I had a friend who worked security. I worked security. When you're working security in the middle of the night with no internet and nothing to do, and you have to check in every hour, you eventually get to know the person on the other end of the phone line. So we went for beers, we got to know each other, we hung out. And over, a year or whatever, he moved back and forth, or he was visiting family, and he had to fly in or take the Greyhound or whatever it was. And I said I would pick him up from the Greyhound, from the bus station. And then I don't know what I'd done the night before. I probably went drinking or something. But when he called for a ride, I was super tired. And I said to him, why don't you just take a cab? And he kind of argued back, like, you said you'd give me a ride. And, I was pretty lazy, I guess. And again, I just said, oh, come on, you'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. So I totally let him down. I totally let down my friend. And after that, he didn't pick up my calls. He didn't answer me. And that's exactly what he should have done. Like, that was the exact feedback that I needed to kind of wake me up, to realize I'm taking my friend for granted. And I'm not being a very good friend. I'm not being a very good friend to him. So I realized I need to be a good friend. I need to put in that extra effort. When someone asks me to help them move, or when someone asks me to, or when someone tells me that they have a friend or a relative who's sick and they need to go to the hospital, I'd be willing to give them a ride. These little things where someone can rely on you, even just making a plan with someone and sticking to that plan, like, we're going to go for some food on Thursday at 7 and not canceling, not forgetting, just being reliable in that sense. So my buddy that I met in college, who I met many people at college. There was about 5 guys that I would hang out with in college. We'd all hang out every day at lunch. Of those 5 people, one of them I still am in touch with today, 20 years later. And he's the same guy that when I moved out from my parents' house, he came to help me move. He was the only person who helped me move. And I mean, how the hell else would I move a dresser or a couch or anything without another person? So he was the one guy that actually showed up to help me. So I knew at that point that, this guy is a worthy friend. And I basically made myself available to him. Whenever he needed something, I'd be there. So there was a time he was going through some kind of crisis in the middle of the day, and he called me or texted me. He was basically deciding whether he should get married or not. And I left work, and I met him in a parking lot, and we had a little chat, and I just basically helped him. I just asked him some questions to get him thinking about what he should do, what path he wants to take, what's the most important thing to him. What will he regret doing or not doing? All of these things. And I mean, I could have just as easily said, sorry man, I'm at work today. Can't beat you. Like, That's a reasonable excuse. I mean, but he needed somebody. He was in crisis. So you get back what you put in. So I want you guys to think, if you want more friends, or if you want friends, think about what you have to offer. How good of a friend are you to others? How good of a friend are you really? Let's really get down to business and be truthful in terms of what are you willing to do or not do for this person, for this other person who you're calling your friend, who you want to be your friend. The other thing that's important is also kind of screening and filtering your friends. So you can't expect someone to treat you better than they treat themselves. If they treat themselves like crap and they can't even take care of themselves, there's no way that they're going to be a good friend to you. It's impossible. There's no possible way for them to be a better friend to you than they can be to themselves. So recognize that when people are letting you down, recognize that it's a poor return on investment. At the same time, you have to be careful not to be too judgmental of people. So this is especially when you first meet them. Maybe they look a little different or sound a little different or whatever it is. It's very easy to fall into the trap where you judge them. Don't judge them. Let them judge themselves. Let them judge you. Let them reject you. So typically when dealing with people, and say we have some kind of conflict, I'll always respond back. And if somebody doesn't respond, like say I ask a question and then they just completely ignore it, then that's it. I'm the last person to engage. And that way I'm leaving it up to them to choose when they're giving up. When they're giving up on the friendship, it's their choice. So I'll give them all the opportunity in the world. And then if they decide to reject me, that's cool. Now I know where they stand. Right? There are times where I have also rejected people when there has been something, extreme. When I had a friend who kind of lost his shit. He was going through some really tough times, but he started to take it out on people at the bar. He started taking it out on me. He started taking it out on my property, smashing up my car, like shit like that. You have to draw the line. You have to realize that you have to also protect yourself. You also have to take care of yourself. You can't be letting those kinds of people into your life. If they're doing those actions, you can't be letting them into your life. So that person, that friend, it basically started ignoring his calls, and we didn't speak for 7 years. And then we ran into each other 7 years later, and he completely understood. He completely took responsibility for how he was acting, and he wasn't even angry at me for not talking to him, because he knew he was in the wrong, and I wouldn't put up with that shit. So think about what you have to offer, and think about how good of a friend you actually are. And work on not judging people, not judging them for superficial things, and let people reject you. Don't hold on to people. Don't, get overly attached when, for some reason, let them reject you. Let them judge you. You don't want judgmental people in your life. You don't want people who will not discuss things and be open with you and explore ideas. And pay attention to those people who actually are there for you when you need something, when you ask for something, when you ask for help. Pay attention to those who actually show up and help you. Invite people out for lunch. If you work somewhere, invite people out for lunch. Say, I'm going for lunch. You want to come? Simple. Start to get to know people in your environment. Stop judging them. And get to know who they are at the level of the soul. Okay, guys, the Life Lessons Podcast, that's all for now. If you're interested in life coaching, check out my website, SpenceLifeCoaching.com. Talk to you later. Bye.